mambo mengi juu ya kurudi kwa mwana wa Mungu. Ufunuo wake Yohana watueleza kuja kwake Bwana. Alionyeshwa mambo mengi juu ya kurudi kwa mwana wa Mungu. Alionyeshwa mambo mengi juu ya kurudi kwa mwana wa Mungu. Ufunuo wake Yohana watueleza kuja kwake Bwana. Alionyeshwa mambo mengi juu ya kurudi kwa Bwana.
Now, there are several things that I would want to repeat again to recap. That we have seen that in Genesis 10 and 11, the beginning of the land of Shinar, the Tower of Babel was built. It was built in a plain by Nimrod, the mighty hunter, who was the descendant of Noah. Now, we have seen that the beginning there was a worship of the sun and worship of a man who was Nimrod. When Nimrod died, it was believed that he went to the sun, and now people started worshiping the sun, believing that they were worshiping Nimrod through the sun rays. And that is how sun worship has become a god even up to today. And this was the basis of the land of Shinar that was built by Nimrod. And now when we are coming to the book of Daniel chapter 1, we are seeing the same land is now called Babylon, from the word Babel, confusion. Now, we are seeing a lot of things that are confused here. Any person who is worshipping other gods is a confused fella. You cannot worship a true God and then you be confused at the same time. This tells us how our God is a great God that gives us the spirit to guide us and keep us away from confusion of the world. But now we are seeing that there was a lot of mix-up of politics, a lot of tradition and religion were brought together to an extent that paganism was risen to that level. And now we are seeing where Daniel and his companions were taken, a place that do not even know God, a place that people that are there are only doing sacrifices to gods continually, and they continued with sacrifices to the gods that the people of Israel were worshipping and many others. And now we are seeing that in Daniel chapter 1 verse 3, and the king spake unto Aspenaz, the master of eunuchs, that should bring certain children of Israel, of the king's seed, and of the princess. Now, amongst the children that they demanded were the people specifically from the king's house. And now we see Daniel, it is very interesting here, the history of the Bible, that Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, by the way, those are just the hidden names that they were using. Daniel, Azariah, Mishael, and the companions, the three companions, were just the people who were from the king. They were the guys, and they were young men who were brought up from the royalty. And we are seeing Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and Daniel. They were there in the land of captivity. Now, they were all from the king's seed. Now, this can be found in the book of Isaiah 39. In the book, it was predicted long time, more than 100 years before the captivity, that the seed of the king shall be taken captive to the land of Babylon. And this is how interesting and how this prophecy is getting. Now, I'm still explaining the reason and how the people of God were taken captives. Chapter 39, Isaiah, verse 7. Look at this kind of prediction. We are starting from verse 5. Then said Isaiah to Ezekiel, Hear the word of the Lord of hosts. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in the store until this day, shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, said the Lord. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Then said Hezekiah to Isaiah. So we are seeing the king Hezekiah getting a prediction and getting a prophecy there from the servant of the Lord Isaiah. And exactly the way it was predicted through the prophet Isaiah is exactly the way it took place. When you go to Daniel 1 verse 3 and verse 4, you are seeing that the king spake unto Aspenaz. These are the master of eunuchs. The eunuch there is a person who is castrated, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in the knowledge and understanding of science, such as had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace, in whom he might teach the learning of the tongue of the Chaldeans. Now we are seeing these children of captivity. I say they are Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. By the way, I always have an issue with those who are using, the servant of the Lord who are using the names of these young people that were taken of Judah, that were taken to Babylon. They are using their hidden names. That was Azariah. To Hananiah, they called Shadrach. To Daniel, Belteshazzar. Mishael, they called Meshach. Azariah, they called Abednego. Now today, most of the people and most of the servants, even right in the pulpit, are using the names of Babylonians that are glorifying the God of Babylon, even during the time that they are worshipping a true God and they are giving a sermon, which is very wrong. Their original names were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And they were given these names. Hananiah they called Shadrach, Mishael they called Meshach, Azariah they called Abednego. And I will tell you the meaning of this name. Daniel they called Belteshazzar. Daniel means God is my judge. But Belteshazzar was Bel protects life. Bel was Baal and a god that was worshipped in Babylon. Now when you call Daniel Belteshazzar, then you are saying Bel or Baal protects. Ananiah means God is gracious. They called Ananiah Shadrach, which is the exact worship of the moon as a god. And you remember in the book of Deuteronomy 17 verse 3, God had said that all the heavenly bodies should not be worshipped because they are idols. Now, Mishael means God has no equal. And then they changed that name, they called him Meshach. Meshach means the devotee of the moon. These are just some gods that were worshipped in Babylon. And then Azariah, they changed his name to Abednego. Abednego means the son of Nebo or Nego. This is one of their gods, chief gods that they used to worship in Babylon. Now, when today you call them Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the same way many people, even in many songs, I hear these things. Many people have not realized that these are just the Babylonian names that were worshipped then. But you realize that these gods are worshipped even today in our religion, in many religions in the world today. I will talk about religion later and tell you who worships the moon and who worships the star. By the way, even in their religion, in their houses of worship, you'll see a moon and a star as a sign of what they are worshipping. And in many churches today, you also see a sun as the sign of their worship. These are gods that were worshipped then, but many people are worshipping them today. And now, when you call these names, you call Daniel Belteshazzar, you call Hananiah, you call him Shadrach, Mishael, Meshach, Azariah, Abednego. When you call those names, you are uplifting the goddess and the gods of Egypt above the God that is the creator of heaven and earth. After the change of name, there is a greater significance in the change of name. Change of name means identity. Change of name means that you are a captive, you are a servant of the person you are called after. For example, when somebody marries a wife, there is always a change of name, which means the wife does not belong to their home anymore. They belong to that place. So in that form, their names were to be changed so that they may have the real identity of the Babylonian gods and Babylon, which later they refused to worship. Today, you as a parent, as me, are you aware of the meaning of the name that you are calling your children with? Are you really aware of the meaning of those names? You should be. You don't just pick a name from soap opera somewhere and then give it to your child. Maybe it was a name of some witch somewhere. And especially in Philippines, many people are Catholics and many people are pagans. They call the name of their people pagan gods. So when you take a name from a soap opera and then you start calling your children, you are tormenting your children, because name comes with an identity. And that is the reason why even when a person becomes a Muslim, crosses over from Christianity to Islam, they change their names. And those names are also identity according to the gods that they are worshipping. Now we saw a change of name from the names that are symbols of God, like God is my judge, God is gracious, God has no equal, and uplifting the name of the Lord. Changed from the Judaic names to Babylonian names. And that is what happened. Then in there, they changed even their diet. By the way, the change of name is found in verse 7. That is Daniel 1. Verse 8 now, they were told to eat foods that were worshipped, that were sacrificed to the gods, many gods, and the foods that were forbidden, that the children of Judah knew very well that they were clean and unclean foods. But you find that they ate them. Many people ate them. But these four outstanding Judah young men, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and Daniel, together, they refused and they did not partake of that food. Especially when you are coming to the book of Daniel. When you come to the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 1 verse 8. The book of Daniel chapter 1 verse 8. These are the words that we are seeing there. I like these words. I really like these words, my dear viewer. In the book of Daniel, chapter 1, verse 8, it says that, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore, he requested of the prince of the eunuch that he might not defile himself. Did you see that? Did you hear that? There are many people that are arguing in the point of diet today and are saying that whatever comes in is not bad, but that which comes out. Hey, it's very interesting. You can now just eat cow dung today. You can now eat just cow dung today because whatever gets in is not bad. Whatever gets out is what is bad. We have a choice of what to eat, not just eat wine, drink wine even in the church and many foods. We have to restrain ourselves, brethren. We cannot just eat. Children of God should know how to eat, should know how to dress, should know how to live, should know how to speak. That is how Daniel, Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were brought up in a godly way. And we need to know, even our eating, God is also concerned about our eating. And that is found in the book of Daniel 1 verse 8. And we found out that even during that history, they were better. After some 10 days, when they were looking at them, they were more gleaming and they were very fat and healthy, more than even the people that were eating the meat from the king's table and the wine. And you can understand the food that is served in a king's table. Who can leave that food today? For example, our president invites you to the state house to go and eat. Will you go there and eat grains and vegetables and all that? Do you know that? By the way, did you know that meat was not original food, original diet that was given to man to eat? Blood was not allowed. In the book of 17 verse 3, the book of Leviticus, and also Leviticus 17. If you go read it very well, brethren, you see things that God did not want us to eat. Even 17 verse 3 and 11 verse 7. You will see a lot of things that God has forbidden that we may not eat. We need to choose. We are seeing these are the lessons that we need to learn from all this. It is not just about history of the kingdoms, but these are the lessons that God had wanted us to learn. The abominations of desolation, which is the type of food, the abominable foods that were forbidden by God. Many people are eating them today. And of course, those are the genesis of all the sicknesses and the diseases that are killing us today, brethren. Now, I want to illustrate something here. If you read the book of Patriarchs and Prophet and Kings, page 479, these are the words of the spirit of prophecy. Among the children of Israel who were carried captive to Babylon at the beginning of the 70 years of captivity were Christian patriots, men who were as true as steel to principle, who would not be corrupted by selfishness, but who would honor God at the loss of all things. In the land of their captivity, these men were to carry out God's purpose by giving the hidden nations the blessing that came through the knowledge of Jehovah. They were to be his representatives. They were to represent God in all the ways, in their diet, in their dress, and in everything. And that is the reason why you find a good example of the type of diet that they ate, they chose. After Daniel had said in verse 8 that now he will not defile himself, now God had brought Daniel in favor and tender love with the prince of Eunuch. They were just in favor with just the people, the heathen people. And the prince of Eunuch said unto Daniel, I fear my lord, the king, who has appointed you your meat and your drink, for why should he see your faces worse? And we are seeing there that is love. Because Daniel had purposed in his heart not to defile himself. Brethren, if you want to know it today, that food defiles. Food defiles. There are animals that many people are eating today that are not supposed to be eaten. Many people are eating swine. And remember, during the time of Daniel and the children of Judah, the swine was just living along the seashore and in the graveyards. Those are the places where they were found. You can guess what they were eating. The rotten fish in the seashore, and also they could dig and also eat people that were buried in the graveyard. And during that time, there were also thieves. Thieves could come and exhume a body from the coffin and put him aside and goes with expensive coffins and sell them during that time. And now you can imagine the swines coming there and finding a rotten body there on the face of there. They used to eat people, literally. And that's the reason why such animals were forbidden for food. And today many people are eating them. And you can imagine the rotten fish that were at the seashore. When the fishermen, the children of Judah, went to fish, there were certain fish that were caught in their nets that were also forbidden in their tradition that they could not eat. They would throw them outside. And there are certain fish that when you throw them outside for even some few minutes, they would die there. And they would start decomposing. And now the swines knew all this. And they were walking along the seashore. And those are the type of food that the swines used to eat then. And you can imagine now swine eating a forbidden and abominable food. And then a man comes and eats the same swine. It was a scavenger. It was just an animal that was like a city council of today, was to sweep the dirt that would be found in the face of the earth and go and throw it like in the dustbin. And many people are eating them today. For example, when a swine eats somewhere, can you even take your feet there where the nose of a swine is constantly searching for food? Can you even allow your feet to get there? Even your feet cannot get there, but it's very contrary and it's very stupid. When you that cannot put your leg where they eat goes and put their food into your mouth, their meat into your mouth. How pathetic. They were to be, the people of Babylon were just a symbol of heathen nation, the kingdom of Satan. And now the bad diet that many people are eating today, even in China, I saw in the video, and I will show you these pictures, you can see them, that they were eating frogs, they're eating things that are forbidden by God. They're eating even the snakes, the bats, and all that. That is the reason why many people are dying today. If I'll just try to explain that before I end it, my viewer, in the book of Exodus 26, verse 15, these are the words that God had said. Don't just eat carelessly, thinking that God has blessed everything. It is not like that. God has reservations. Listen to what the Bible says. In the book of Exodus 15, verse 26, and said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and wilt thou give ear to his commandments, and keep all the statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. Now we are seeing that there are statutes and the commandments of God concerning diet. And that is how the people of Israel and the children of Judah were brought up. Now, on this point, now listen to what the Spirit of Prophecy says also. In the book of Prophet and Kings, page 482. Nor dared Daniel and his 3 companions risk the enervating effect of luxury and dissipation on the physical, mental, and spiritual development. They were acquainted with the history of Nadab and Abihu, the record of whose intemperance and its results had been preserved in the parchment of the Pentateuch, and they knew that their own physical and mental power would be injuriously affected by the use of wine. Now this is how the wine can destroy people. And we are seeing also the people, Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, who were destroyed because of their intemperance. Their minds, they were the sons of the priests, they were to become priests, but now in their work of God, they defiled themselves because of their intemperance. They had all this knowledge with them to an extent that now they desisted from the foods that were sacrificed. Hello, children of God, it is very good. It is very good when we go with the commandments of God and concerning everything, because the Bible has spoken of entirely everything in this world. That any person who is now just getting into error, is just getting by his choice, but not that he did not have enough light concerning that. Now, in the book of Counsels to Health, page 19, paragraph 5, this is what the Spirit of Prophecy says. God spoke to us this way. The violation of physical law, which with its consequent suffering and premature death, has so long prevailed that these results are regarded as appointed no lot of humanity, but of God, did not create the race in such a feeble condition. This state of things is not the work of providence, but of man. It has been brought about the wrong habits by violating of the laws that God has made to govern the man's existence. A continual transgression of nature's law is continual transgression of God's law. Had men always been obedient to the law of the 10 Commandments, carrying out in their lives the principles of those precepts, curse of disease now flooding the world would not exist. Now we are seeing that the keeping of the commandment and the keeping of the statutes of God are the same. Now if you obey God in 10 commandments, you will obey Him also in your health and make a good choice of how you bring up your children or how you eat. And these are the lessons that the children of Judah knew very well. These are the lessons that were constantly taught in Jerusalem in the temple. Today, many people are not teaching the health message even in our churches. We are seeing that the children were brought up in this message and they were standing during their time. Do you remember people like Daniel? Daniel was barely 18 years old when he was taken into captivity. But even at that time, he knew how to eschew evil. He knew how to keep himself wise and keep himself well by not defiling himself by the foods that were forbidden. Now, how many young people at that age today can stand against bad diet of flesh as food, or even the swine's food, or even eating a lot of fishes that were forbidden by God? Brethren, there is a greater need for people who believe in God that they may eat well. By the way, if I may just illustrate to you what food does to your brain. It can cause you heaven. How? Because there are certain types of food that when we eat them, we cannot be healthy in our lives. And when we are not healthy, an unhealthy person cannot do God's work. For example, today, if I become sick, will I even be here to preach or even be used by the Holy Spirit to bring certain revelations, or I'll be concentrating on my pain? And this is how many men of God have destroyed their lives by not regarding the laws of health. And at the end of the day, they perish without having faith. Their faith diminishing day by day because as a result of their intemperance. And that's the reason why even in the book of Genesis, God tested man through food. So eating is also a spiritual issue here. So many people cannot concentrate on prayer. So many people cannot concentrate on longer sermons today. Why? Because they are unhealthy in their bodies. Their brains are benumbed, and their brains are so weak to comprehend godly things. Remember that the voice of God is heard in your conscience, and your conscience is in your brain. And now, when you make decisions based on a benumbed brain, or a brain that is so squeezed, and a brain that is not healthy, then it means the possibility of making a wrong decision that is favoring Satan is so easy. And at the end of the day, you end up choosing something that does not favor God. And this is how diet will make us perish in this world. Now we have seen the standing out of the people of Judah, and we have seen that Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah had a very good stand before even the heathen kings. And that is how when they were tested after 10 days, after some time, they were even 10 times better. Even in their wisdom, they were 10 times better. When you go to verse 12, that's Daniel 1, they say that prove thy servants, I beseech thee 10 days, and let them give us pearls to eat and water to drink. There are many people who are not drinking water, and pearls there is just fruits, a combination of fruits, grains, and vegetables. That is what they were eating, and their lives were better. If you go to verse 20, listen to that. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realms. Now we're finding that the children of Judah were better in their brains and also in their health. This is how we need to bring our lives today as we are waiting for the second coming of Jesus. Thank you, brethren, for concentrating. And we have just seen that the children of captivity and all the vessels were taken to Babylon. And these 4 young men, Daniel at the age of 18, were outstanding. Remember, they also came from the king's lineage, the Hezekiah, that we found in the book of Isaiah 39. But now they knew, even at that, in royalty, they knew how to keep themselves pure without defilement. You today, that is not even coming from a king's lineage, you eat just anything that comes. That's why we are dying today with many pandemics and many diseases. May God help us. We have seen that in Daniel 1, God wanted us to talk about the abomination of desolation, which means the food that many people have taught us that God does not care of what we are eating or what we are drinking. Eat healthy, and your health coincides with your spiritual health. Mental health and physical health and spiritual health go hand in hand. May God bless you. May God help you, that all of us may learn from all that.
Ufundisho akitueleza kuja kwake Bwana. Alionyeshwa mambo mengi juu ya kurudi kwa mwana wa Mungu.